Exponents are nothing more than just repeated multiplication. So if we want to write 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 a bunch of times, if we want to write it a bunch of times there, specifically, this has 10 different copies of the 2 all multiplied by each other, we would write 2 to the 10th. Zoom in a little. We'd write 2 to the 10th there. And of course we could simplify that. We could actually do the multiplication. We'd get 1024 rather. Alright. If we wanted to do 11 different copies of 10, 10 to the 11th here, that would be this number, or whatever, whatever this is. Now, if we were to count up the number of zeros here, this is we call these powers of 10. Notice that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 zeros here. And notice it's 10 to the power of 11. This is one of the nice things about dealing with powers of 10. You can just count up the number of zeros, and that'll tell you what power of 10 it is. Yeah, it's a nice thing about the decimal system that we work with. Alright, so if we wanted to write this number in exponential form, well, we'd just count up the number of 3's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'd say, well, 3 is the base, because that's the number that's repeated, and it occurs 6 different times, so this would be 3 to the 6th power. We could simplify this, actually multiplying the things together, but we're asked to give the answer in exponential form, so I leave it with an exponent. If we're asked to give the answer in expanded form, meaning without exponents and not simplified, this means I would want to write out 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Alright, if we had something like negative 3 in parentheses to the 5th power. I want to simplify this, so I want to just plug it into my calculator. And, well, first off, let's think about what's going to happen here. We're going to have negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, and so on. There's going to be 5 copies. There's going to be 5 copies of this negative 3. So, overall, if you think about if this is going to be negative or positive, well, these two would cancel out, and these two would cancel out. We'd still have one negative left over. The end result is going to be negative. And as far as the number here, let me pull out my calculator. Well, we would take, well, in parentheses, negative 3 to the, what's this, 5th power. Press enter, and you can see we get negative 243. Now, you may be wondering about those parentheses. Why in the world am I putting parentheses? Normally, you would just do something like this. Negative 3 to the 5th power. And you can see we do get the same number here, but these actually do represent kind of a different process of getting that same number, and it's not always going to be the same number. So what we did here is we said negative 3 5 separate times. So we took negative 3 to the 5th power. If you don't have that negative there, this negative actually acts as an operation in and of itself, and in the order of operations it comes with multiplication. So what this would say, if you had this dash and then 3 to the 5 without any parentheses or anything like that, what this would do is it would take and do this operation first. It would do 3 to the 5th first, which gives us 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and then it would make the whole thing negative. And you can see in this case it does come out as the same number. But like I said, that's not always going to be the case. If we only had 4 copies of this negative 3, this is what's being asked for, because there are parentheses around it. This is saying that we need to take this negative 3 and take 4 copies of it all multiplied by each other. This should be a positive number. And if I plug this into the calculator with the parentheses, negative 3 with parentheses raised to the 4th power, press enter, you can see I get a positive 81, and I expected a positive number. If I didn't, so this was negative 3 to the 4th like this, if I didn't have the parentheses and say the opposite of 3 to the 4th, this is the opposite of 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, this would be a negative 81. This is not the correct number, because that's not what's being asked for. You can see in this, it specifically had the parentheses on there, and I guess I can just type it into the calculator so I can verify. Oops. The opposite of 3 to the 4th there is negative 81. And that's what's going on. It's the parentheses are telling us to either take that negative into account and count it as a negative 3, or to use it with the normal order of operations, in which case it comes with multiplication. Because really that dash is the same thing as multiply by negative 1. So it would say you know, this right here is basically saying -1 times 3 to the 4th. And that 3 to the 4th is going to happen before changing the sign of the number. I think that's all, yeah.